would you be, in theory, for a Giannis trade?
In theory, yes, I would be. I think when you get a chance to get a player that has that much production, I'll call it, like he's 30, 12, and 6 every year, and he plays both sides of the ball. He's like that high energy hustle guy, but he's also giving you 30 points. I personally have been on record many times on this podcast saying that he's my least favorite player to watch.
Yeah, you have.
I hate watching him play. Part of that is how teams have used him, how the Bucks have used him. Just give him the ball and let him run at the basket. But it's effective. Like, that's the thing. I can hate it, and it can be ugly basketball, but it's like, 30, 12, and 7 or 30, 12, and 6 with like top of the league efficiency every year. So unless you're giving up, the world for him type thing.
Right. So a little bit of semantics about Giannis. Of course, I mean, we all heard of Giannis Antetokounmpo if you've watched the NBA at all, but 31 years old. Fun fact, he's actually less than a month younger than me. So pretty close age-wise. His contract for this year, he's making $54 million. Next year, $58 million. 2028, he has a player option. He'll be 33 years old. He'll be making $62 million. But I believe whoever the Bucks do decide to send him to, whether it's us, whether it's Miami, whether it's whoever, they're probably going to have an extension in place for the long term. Two-time MVP 2019 and 2020, so about 6 years ago, won the 2021 NBA championship, had that iconic block, brought Milwaukee their first championship since Kareem Abdul-Jabbar in 1917. Sorry, not 17, 1971. 1971. Kareem's not that old. But since then has only made it out of the first round one time and has 3 straight exits. In his last 4 seasons, he's averaged 67 games played per year, but he also has only played 3 games against Miami in the 22-23 playoffs, missed the entire playoffs in 23-24, played all 5 games against Indiana, but of course, Damian Lillard got hurt, and it was kind of a mess. And then, of course, in that game, you had the Gary Trent Jr. debacle at the end and kind of the Indiana magic. Just this year, he's missed 24 days with a calf injury, 11 days with a groin injury, and then another calf for 35 days. Do you worry about particularly him being a big man in the league? We've seen them expire early. Maybe not expire, but, not have the longevity of some other players. I mean, you look at Embiid, you look at Zion. Maybe Zion's a different case, but do you worry at all about selling the farm for a guy who is on past probably his prime, I would say, and may be going on the decline, and is also like 6'11" and pretty big?
Short answer, no. I don't really worry about injuries that much because I think that they just sort of happen. Like, they either happen or they don't. I don't think there's a lot of rhyme or reason. Like, I have a hard time believing certain players just happen to get injured a lot. I think maybe they just got into situations and it happened. I don't really buy a lot of these injuries of this year. Like, I don't think I guarantee his calf is not hurt right now. Like if he gets traded to the Lakers, he plays tomorrow type thing. He's an interesting player, like he's the kind of player, I get his age and stuff, but it's not like he's using like extraordinary speed, or it's not like he's using like a real diminishing type skill set. He's just big and strong and just kind of pushes his way. Like the way that he's effective is effort, maybe more than just explosive athleticism. So I don't know if his age is really going to affect too much of his impact, but I mean, long story short, I'm not worried about it. If I was giving up Anthony Edwards for him, I might worry about it, and it might be, something like that. But the trades that I think are possible, or at least to make the salary cap work, I'll roll the dice on that.
Before we get into it, is Anthony Edwards the only one you wouldn't, the only player on the team you wouldn't include in a trade? Is he the only one safe?
Yeah, I mean, I would have to, if push comes to shove, yes.
Today's show is brought to you by 612tees.com. Cole at 612tees designs awesome shirts for yourself or the Wolves fan in your life, and Vikings and Twins and Wild stuff as well. Check them out at 612tees.com and use the promo code RUN25 at checkout, or just click on the link in the description to get 25% off your first purchase. That's at 612tees.com. Link in the description.
Here is my point before we get into the trades. I'm not saying don't do it, right? I'm not saying don't trade for Giannis. I actually do worry a little bit about his injuries and him kind of coming to more of the tail end of his career, particularly, guys, this isn't a Kobe White situation where we might only have him for the stretch run. This is, we're committing to Giannis Antetokounmpo and Anthony Edwards. This is the trade if they do it. There's nothing coming in the future. I don't want to say nothing, but this would be the biggest trade probably of Anthony Edwards' tenure in Minnesota, and hence probably the biggest trade in the history of the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, you can argue Randall and Cat, you can argue Rudy Gobert, but it doesn't compare to something like this. And my only point is, if Tim Connolly is going to make this gamble, there's too much at stake to wing it. There's too much at stake for this whole franchise, everything going forward. There's too much at stake to make a knee-jerk reaction and just send a bunch of guys for Giannis because the fan base is telling you to, or we need to open a new arena soon and we want to raise prices and we got new owners and it's going to look sexy with Giannis and Ant. This needs to be a calculated decision here that can't be made lightly, because there's two ways this goes, right? Or I guess a couple, but the two extremes. Giannis comes here, it's perfect. We're raising a banner in Target Center. Everyone's happy. We reach our full potential. He's the missing piece. If it doesn't work out, think about this. We have an aging, injury-prone Giannis. I like I said, you say that injuries are a little bit shaky. They just kind of happen. But I'm just saying the scenario. We have an aging, injury-prone Giannis on this team. Anthony Edwards gets upset. It's not working. Like, let's say some first round exits or second round exits, and basically the ceiling for the Wolves doesn't improve. Guess what? Anthony Edwards has no ties to Minnesota. I've said this time and time again. He's from Georgia. He's not a Minnesota kid. I think if this goes wrong, it will screw up the Anthony Edwards years. So this is the ultimate risk the Wolves are taking, and really they have a week to figure it out. Your thoughts on that?
If we stay pat, are we raising a banner?
Well, I'll actually
I want to know that this year.
Stand pat the way we are. I'm not saying don't make any no trades at the deadline.
Yeah.
That's
are we raising a banner this year?
No free agents, no buyouts, just the way we are. Is that what you're saying?
Right.
No.
Are we?
I don't think.
I mean, we're not a top 4 team in the West if we don't do anything.
I understand that, but I will make an argument in a little bit that will counter that. But keep going.
I mean, my point is we need to do something. I've been saying this for a couple of years now. I don't think this roster is enough. I think it's a good roster. It's probably beat any team on any given night type roster. But in a 7-game series, we're not good enough. We're not good enough to win it if everybody's healthy. Can we catch some teams with injuries and this and that and win? Sure. Yeah. But that's just a luck of the draw. So I think we need to make a move. I said on the end of the last podcast, when we're talking about Kobe White or AO or Jones, like AO and Jones are fine, but those aren't big enough moves, in my opinion, to move the needle to actually make things happen.
I feel
Kobe White is close, maybe. But I was talking like LaMelo Ball. Like that's the type of move. We need an actual star to come in here type player.
Okay.
And it's possible that those players aren't out there. Like they don't just fall into your lap.
Right.
And I'm probably lower on some of the pieces that we would need to trade to get Giannis than some people. So yeah, I almost think it's a no-brainer. You take a shot at it. And he's got 2 years left on his contract, I think.
Yes. So,
Anthony Edwards has 3 or 4 on his current contract.
yeah.
So even if it falls apart in the next year or two, he walks, we save $60 million and we can rebuild around, a still in his prime Anthony Edwards with cap space and hopefully, players wanting to come here.
That's if Ant wants to resign and stay after that. And I know we're speaking in generalities. I know.
Well, the thing about the not resigning thing, if he decides to not resign with us, it means he's probably going to lose about $120 million on the life of that contract.
Yeah, that's true.
Can you make that up with marketing and stuff like that? For sure you can. But almost zero NBA players have ever passed up that contract.
Right.
Sometimes they've signed it like Damian Lillard and instantly said, I want to trade. But they signed the contract almost every time. So I'm not worried about Anthony Edwards leaving, to be honest.
Okay. All right. That's fair. I do want to bring up one point. Take a look at the last 5 NBA champions. Now, I'm not talking about the 2010s era where, LeBron reigned supreme and you had Curry and you had the Durant team. And even basically ever since the Lakers bubble title, every single team has been built like this. And I'm going to go one by one and just kind of explain. So we start with actually the Bucks. What did they do? They used their draft picks in Giannis, Chris Middleton they brought in as well. And then what did they do? Guys like Bobby Portis too. They brought in nice veterans. They brought in Drew Holiday. They brought in Brook Lopez. So not home run swing. Hold on.
Drew Holiday is pretty big. Let's not slide over.
No. But it's not. We're not talking Giannis here.
But he's a max player.
I don't know at that time. He was close. He was the 3rd or 4th best player on that team.
Okay.
All right. So next one, Warriors. Now Warriors a little different. They did use their draft picks: Curry, Clay, Dre, right? And then they drafted guys like Jordan Poole and kind of built around that as well. Brought in some key guys like Andrew Wiggins. They made the Andrew Wiggins trade, won a championship. I think we can all agree Andrew Wiggins is not Giannis Antetokounmpo, but they still did make moves. The Nuggets, after that, what did they do? They built around Jokic. They built around Murray. They built around MPJ, who they later traded, but they did have him for the stretch run. Christian Brown was a big part of that as well. They brought in guys like Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. They brought Bruce Brown as well, was homegrown talent. And what did they do? They went on to win a championship. But
they brought in Gordon. Gordon was about a $20 million guy.
I understand that. No, I was
not an all-star, not a high level.
Not a Giannis kind of move. So what I'm saying is complementary moves. Like I would say Gordon probably on the same wavelength as like a Kobe White at that time. Yeah.
Or even a Wiggins.
Yeah, for sure. Celtics, what did they do? They built around Tatum and Brown. Now, they did have some other pieces. They went out and got White, nice role players. They did bring in Porzingis, but let's be completely honest, Porzingis was not a big part of that championship run at all.
Right.
And honestly, Porzingis isn't a Giannis anyway. No. He's not. He's not to that level. And then, of course, the last one, the Oklahoma City Thunder, which built around their draft picks. They did trade for Shea, but that was not a Giannis move at the time, right? That was a move where we're going to take a chance on some guy, and he ended up turning out. They drafted Jalen Williams as well. And what did they do? They brought in some nice veterans around him. They bring in Harkenstein. They bring in Alex Caruso, and they end up winning a champ. By the way, the Celtics also brought in a older Drew Holiday as well for that, I should mention. But what I'm saying is it seems like the new formula in the NBA, and I'm not saying if this is right or wrong, the new formula is to build around your guys and then just get some nice complementary pieces, which is where I think the Wolves should be turning their attention. Now, if you can get Giannis for cheap for some reason, which I don't think that's possible, because I think every team in the NBA is going to throw some offer, even if it's like when you put him in the trade finder on 2K, and then like you have 29 offers, and some of them are like expiring deals and like a second round pick, and they make no sense. But hey, we should throw one out maybe. But I feel like the trend in the NBA is to build around your draft picks, build around your guys, and then just complement them. Maybe not blow it up, but I could be wrong. That's just what I notice.
I think to draw a hard line on the way to do it is tough, because I think every team is built differently. Like the Celtics happen to have drafted two guys that are near MVP level. So build around those two guys, and they're both wings, they're both ball creators. That's a great situation to be in. I would say the Bucks, when they won their title, they lucked their way into it. Every team they played had an all-star that went down with injury. So it's a little bit of an asterisk on that team. The team they played in the championship was, built off superstars type thing with Chris Paul and those cats, and Booker. But it's tough. I get what you're saying, and I would love to do that. I would love to have, some middle first round, high first round, draft picks to draft 6 or 7 guys and hope 1 or 2 of them turns out to be great, but we don't. We're kind of at a tough place in our roster where we've got not much for draft capital to make moves on that level. We're a good enough team where everybody we are going to be drafted that will be homegrown is going to be late first round, which I'm not saying you can't get a star that way, but it's harder, obviously.
Yeah.
And, we're kind of aging with high contracts. So I don't know if there's much opportunity for us to improve our roster in general, other than standing pat and hoping, in year 7 or 8 that one of our guys is going to make this huge jump to push us over to the next level at the near all-star level. And I just don't see any of our guys doing that.
Right. And again, I'm not saying stand pat. In fact, I'm saying the opposite. I'm saying do other moves. Yeah. But hey, if I'm wrong, I would love to be wrong. If Giannis comes here, which for the record, I don't think it's going to happen.
Right.
I personally think that Giannis and his brand wants to get out of the Midwest. I think
he wants to be with Miami.
I think he wants to be Miami. I think he wants to be the Heat. I think Golden State. I think it makes a ton of sense for them. And I'm not saying it doesn't make a ton of sense for us. I just think that there's probably people around him that are telling him, hey, man, you can make this much more money if you go to a national power like the Knicks or like Miami.
Or Houston, where there's no income tax, or Miami, where there's no income tax, where your $60 million contract, you just made an extra $20 million on it, opposed to going to Minnesota or to California.